I'm Mar, and once again, this is my opinion. While the films made money, Sony hasn't had the best track record with Spider Man in recent years. While I enjoy 3 in the 2 Amazing films, they are steps down from the first 2 Raimi films. Homecoming had high points, but might be a film I enjoy less with a rewatch. That said, from the time Into the Spider-Verse's trailer dropped, I had a feeling Sony might finally have another great Spider-Man film. Having watched it now, I can report my theory is fact. While it is early, this is easily the best Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2. Taking place mainly in an adaptation of the Ultimate Verse, Spider-Verse follows Miles Morales, an average teenager dealing with typical teen problems: parents, schoolwork, and puberty. One night while tagging with his uncle, Miles is bitten by a radioactive spider, which gives him Spider-Man powers. In addition to the typical wall-crawling abilities, Miles can also turn invisible and generate electricity. While alone this would be stressful, it is paired with the death of his universe's Peter Parker at the hands of Kingpin and the breaching of the multiverse. This breaching pulls Spider-Man from other verses into Miles' own. Together they must foil Kingpin's plan and restore the multiverse's balance. The film was well paced, not excessively fast and not snail slow. It's a Goldilocks situation. The animation is exceptional. The characters and backgrounds rendered beautifully. The color shifts at times, but appropriately given the film's plot and Miles' artistic leaning. The outlandish Spider-Men even have their own artistic vibe. Noir is black and white, Penny is anime-ish, and Porker is essentially a cartoon within a cartoon, a fact which is brought up as comic relief during several fights. While I don't see the film winning, an Oscar nomination is warranted for the animator's hard work. Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, and the rest of the cast gave great vocal performances. Each feels perfectly cast, and their work complements the animation well. If I have any nitpicks, it's Nicolas Cage. I enjoy him as an actor, and he does give a good performance, but at times he does drop the 1930s accent, although this simply could be an artistic choice for those moments. If so, it's weird but sensible. If not, my nitpick remains. If anything initially worried me, it was Kingpin being the film's villain. While I'm mainly familiar with him via the 90s cartoon, yes, I have yet to watch the Netflix MCU shows, I wondered how he would be treated. Would he simply be another dry villain surrounded by a compelling plot? Or an understandable baddie that you booed for his methods? He's thankfully the latter. Kingpin's plan could destroy the multiverse, a fact he is told multiple times as the film progresses and promptly ignores. Kingpin doesn't care. All he wants is to regain his wife and son, whose loss he blames on Spider-Man. Simple, but effective within the film's context. While I'm not the biggest fan of hip-hop, its inclusion in the soundtrack was fitting. It fit Miles' character, and sporadic inclusion helps sell plot moments well. I don't see myself humming the melodies, but I won't begrudge those who do. Like most of the post-2012 Marvel films, Spider-Verse contains comedy. Shocking, I know. While the MCU does contain moments where the comedy works, for many there are moments where it's off-putting. Spider-Verse doesn't have this issue. While much of the humor arises from similar situations, character interactions, and moments, they don't feel off-putting. While it might take another viewing to fully nail this down, Spider-Verse doesn't jar the overly dramatic moments by following with a joke. If anything, that's the MCU's greatest comedy flaw, even if it doesn't always bother me personally. I'm a LARPer and like character dialogue exchanges, so sue me. Just a quick little thing, this is a postscript writing edit. I forgot to mention one important thing about the plot, and that was the mentor-student relationship between Peter B. Parker and Miles. After Miles gets his powers, his versus Spider-Man dies, and he runs into the alternate Peter Parker, and they start forming a friendship. Peter is essentially at first leeching off Miles. Miles is trying to get some tips from that Parker. First, it's kind of a weird, awkward mentorship, but as the film progresses, Peter starts to get a little bit more into it, even if he doesn't fully commit to it, but he does help Miles. Miles, throughout most of the film, is trying to figure out how to use his spider powers on command. They seem to just be instinctive, especially his invisibility and his wall crawling abilities. So that's a nice little touch, is that he doesn't fully get access to him. He has to learn, so that by the final conflict in the third act, when he actually does have access to him, it feels earned. It doesn't feel like, oh, great, he has his powers. What a shock. Into the Spider-Verse is an entertaining film. The characters are engaging and identifiable, even the main villain, which is a change of pace for recent Marvel. The joke's funny and timed appropriately, and the animation a feast for the eye. Easily one of my favorite films of the year, even though I still have many to catch up on, #LazyAssReviewer. It also had a touching Stan Lee cameo and mid-credit tribute. Excelsior. 4.5 out of 5 web shooters.